everybody. It's Winter with the Shift Spotlight, and today we have a very special guest with us. His name is Jack McBride. He's the CEO at OnQ, and he can be found at onqoc.com. So, Jack, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, I like to start out with something a little bit fun before we dive into all of the great stuff that we're going to talk about today. So, what is one interesting fact about you that people may not know?
Well, a lot of people probably don't know that I'm kind of a tinkerer. I like to tinker with different mechanical things. Ever since I was little, I've been kind of intrigued about everything from as small as a pencil and how is a pencil made. And so I still have brought that into adulthood. I do my own maintenance on my vehicles. I've got a lift in the garage. When the power was a problem here in the state of Texas, people needed generators. So I learned all about setting up generators and modifying my circuit panels and all that kind of stuff, and installed my own generators in my house. So just tinkering and whatever needs to be done, kind of a handyman.
That sounds like a very, very valuable skill, especially for the women out there, right? I'm sure that your wife is very happy about that skill set.
Yeah, as long as we don't get in too much trouble, there's 220 volts of electricity going through there. So as long as I don't hurt myself too bad, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah, there's that too. Yeah, we installed a generator, and fun fact, as you know, you've got to service it once a year, and we have not figured out how to service it. We just pay somebody to do. Something tells me that's something you could do pretty easily.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, well, why don't you tell us at a high level what it is that you do?
So as the CEO of OnQ, I feel like one of the things that I am ultimately responsible for, and the primary thing, is the culture of the company. And so I spent a lot of time learning about, really, first of all, what does that mean? And it was through my Vistage organization, where I was introduced to a guy named Dave Friedman with Culture by Design. And it wasn't until I heard his presentation and read his book that it finally clicked. Like, here's a roadmap on how you build a world-class culture. And after that, I was truly appreciative, and we implemented what we call the QA principles. We have 40 QA principles
Wow.
every week. We have a video that goes out. It started off with me, and then our president started doing QA principles, and now we have our leadership team doing QA principles, and it's one principle per week. And because we are also on EOS, we have inserted that into our level 10 meeting. So at the beginning of every level 10 meeting, we talk about the QA principle of the week. And that has been, I feel like, really helpful in terms of building the culture of the organization, which is kind of, if you think about it, it's difficult in companies like mine because we are in the US, we are in Panama, we're in Kenya, we're in India. We have an office in London, and we also have one in Florida and Texas. So, I mean, we're all over the place. So this came at the perfect time, and has really helped us quite a bit.
So we are going to dive into everything you talked about, from Vistage to your culture. But
Okay.
before we get it, because that was an amazing answer, but before we get into that, like, what is the actual reason for OnQ's existence? What's behind the company?
I'm so glad you asked me that. So yeah, what we are all about is we're trying to find those areas of the world where we feel like we can truly make a difference in the lives of the people and the communities in which we operate. And so we look for those areas where there's typically very high unemployment, but also very high education rates. And we see ourselves as having a really good platform for bridging the gap between those communities and then the communities that really need the help. And so when we first started the company, we started in Panama. And we are in a town, the town's called Santiago. It was a smaller town in what they call the interior of Panama. And there was not a whole lot of white collar jobs there when we arrived. And we ended up building a relationship with the University of Panama, which is where we got our first hiring of, we hired 28, we call them the originals. And then, from there we built up. And at one point we were the largest employer in Santiago, Panama, which was,
Wow.
a fantastic thing to do. And as part of that, you get to see the communities grow and the impact that the jobs and the new money that's coming into the communities is really having on the community. So that's what we're all about, is really trying to find those areas where we can make a difference in people's lives.
And so, who is your avatar customer? Who do you service?
We service healthcare primarily. And we started off in radiology because prior to this, our partners, we had a radiology medical billing company that we built up and we sold it. And then after that, we started OnQ. And so the easiest way to grow was to call up our former clients and competitors and ask them if they would be willing to give us a shot doing call center work in healthcare in Panama. And so that's how we got started. Now, really, you name it in healthcare, hospital systems, ambulatory services, large radiology groups. Those are the clients that we have.
Okay,
And
very, very interesting. So you also have this give back aspect of what you do. That's a little bit different than a lot of the CEOs that I talk about. What does that feel like in your day-to-day life? Like knowing you're actually making an impact. I visited Panama recently for the first time, and it is
yeah,
a third world country. Their resources are taxed there.
I think so. In order to really be effective, I have learned that your mission has to be much bigger than you. And for example, when I was younger, yes, I'm looking to make money. That's what it was all
We
about.
all were.
And as I got older, and did some deals and was successful, I started to realize that really that's never going to fill the hole. It's just not.
Yeah.
And so, what is it that's going to make you feel like you have contributed to the planet and to humankind, and find that mission that really gets you inspired? And because I also know that if you're only doing it for yourself, you're going to stop. You're not going to go the extra mile for yourself. You will lower your expectations, you will lower your targets, and that's really not what is needed. I think uh, get yourself worthy. There's a book by a guy named Steven Schwartzman. A lot of people probably know him. He is a very successful entrepreneur, founder of Blackstone Group. But in it, one of his rules, he's got a great little list of 25 rules at the end of his book, and one of them is when you endeavor on a journey, do something that is worthy of your time and that is worthy of your efforts. Shoot for the moon. And I think that's really good advice.
And it's also, starting with your why, that book out there too, right? Like if you don't have a strong why behind what you do, you will taper out on it. It will fizzle out. The passion will fade. And so if you are doing it for money, money runs its course. It stops fulfilling that need, and having that strong why is really important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Simon Sinek, Start With Why.
Yeah.
I love that. Very inspiring book. Yeah.
Okay, so we all know that running a business is hard, and we are going to talk about some of the mistakes you made. But before we do that, let's talk about something that you did right.
Something that I did right, surround myself with smarter people than me. I mean,
Oh, well, that is smart.
I we hear that all the time, and it's so true. And then I think realizing the limitations that we have in ourselves, and that in order to be effective leaders, we have to continually be growing. And it was actually getting help from outside sources, even when I didn't think that I needed it, that
Mhm.
really opened my eyes. I joined Vistage just because they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we think you would be a good part of this." I didn't even know about Vistage, and I looked at it and was like, "Okay, things aren't going the best that they possibly could be. I'm pretty confident. I think that I can, conquer the world and I don't need any help, but let me talk to these people.
Right, right,
And it was that really kind of opened my eyes to, you know, people want to help. And it's not, it is something that you have to welcome with open arms and humble yourself and say, I don't have all the answers. And so, yeah, it's about letting people help you because they truly do want to help you.
right, right. And there's a real need for these CEO groups. And I did notice that you are a member of Vistage. So, like, out of all of the CEO groups out there, why did you join Vistage?
Well, I, I wish I could say that I did a tremendous amount of research. Like I said, they reached out to me. I didn't even know about Vistage. There are other groups, though, that I did see were very effective. My friend and former CEO of the company we had before was a member of EO, the Entrepreneur
Right.
Organization,
Yeah.
and I saw that she got a lot of benefit out of it from a leadership perspective as well. And so I knew that it's something that I should look into. After joining Vistage, I feel like I was very fortunate. My Vistage chair, his name's Terry Buskey. He meets with me every single month. We do one-on-ones, and the other members of our Vistage group, you'll have some that are, they're on their journey at different points in time. We're
Right.
all on a journey at a different point in time. So you have some that are smaller, you have some that are a little bit larger, you have some that are a lot larger, and they've been through the process. And so one of the things that was really eye-opening for me was that even though we are in completely different industries, doing completely different things, the problems and the challenges and the things that it's all the same. And it all comes down to really how well can you treat the people that work in your organization. The
Mm.
better you can advocate for them, the more that you can improve their lives, the better the company does. And it just makes a whole lot of sense, because if you think about it, people will say, the reason my company is the best is because it's because of the people. And then in the same breath, they'll turn around and say, the most challenging thing that I have to do as a
It's
business owner is manage the
people.
people. And they're genuine on both sides. It
That's
is
right.
the most challenging, but it's also the most rewarding. So why did I choose Vistage? It was because they reached out. I got fortunate and ended up with Terry. And then they are the ones where they taught me about EOS, because I was an open book. I went in and said, these are the things that I'm dealing with at Vistage. And there were quite a few, just to be honest. And 4 different people said, "Have you heard of EOS? I think you would really benefit from EOS." So then I ended up with an outside implementer. Her name's Lisa Skipper with EOS, and she just set us straight, got us on the right track, and it's been really a great trip ever since.
Like
Yeah.
you're like a great podcast guest, because like you're literally setting me up for my next questions, which was going to be, how has EOS been most effective in helping you scale your business? I don't know if you know what we do at GCE Strategic Consulting, but we basically provide fractional and leadership services. And like back to your other point about CEO groups, Ken coaches CEOs for a living. And his team does. They're integrators, and they work very closely with implementers, and they know everything about businesses. They're the ones fixing a lot of these business. But even he joined EO because he wanted a CEO group and he wanted to show up in his best way. So we've recently
Yeah.
become members. We're getting value out of it too. Just everything to, like you said, keep furthering and bettering yourself for your clients. And so, we've seen the power of EOS and how it's helped transform. So, like, give me, an example of one thing that EOS has done for you.
Well, it certainly has opened my eyes in terms of the shortcomings that I had as a leader. And, it inspired me to read more books and more and more and more. And so, a specific example is that I have a fear of conflict. And I learned how that fear of conflict creates an atmosphere of distrust. And when you have an atmosphere of distrust, you're not going to get anything done.
That is
And
so
so,
beautifully said, truly beautifully said. Because you're
thanks.
right, fear of conflict, it could show up as, not authentic.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I could see how that would be super, super ineffective in an organization with as many employees as you have.
No doubt about it. And so one of the great things was, five dysfunctions of a team. We have to read, Patrick Lencioni's Five Dysfunctions of a Team every single year. And it has the five dysfunctions pyramid. And we go through all of the different levels of the pyramid, and we rate ourselves on where we are at that point in time. And what's really fun is to go back every year and you look at, this is where we were, this is where we are, and it spurs the conversation to say, wow, look at how much improvement we've had. Or if it's been kind of a rough quarter, it might be, why are we slipping a little bit? But, it drills in the fact that the foundation of any high performing successful team is trust. And without it, you're toast. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so let's talk about that team dynamic and culture that you brought up earlier. How many employees do you have?
We have somewhere between 700 and 800 employees. I would say probably around 750 employees.
So is
right
that including all your call center employees?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
all of them are W-2s and they're not 1099s.
They are W-2s in the sense that we talk about them in the United States as a W-2 employee. They work for our companies, but our employees are in Panama, Kenya, and India. So they're working for our company in Panama, Kenya, and India,
Gotcha.
and the US, of course.
So that's a huge step, and it all starts at the top. So how do you drive accountability in your business to make sure that you as a leader, the company's vision, the 40, what did you call them at the beginning of this? The 40 principles that you want to execute. How do you, do that in a way where you're getting what you want?
All right. So since you're familiar with EOS, you know that the visionary is kind of all over the place. And that is me. And what EOS did for me also is it gave me permission to be a visionary. I felt like I had to be a part of the operation and rolling my sleeves and getting my hands dirty and doing the work too. And it was EOS where the team taught me, yeah, get out of here, dude. You're making things difficult for us and you're creating chaos and everything. And so what,
You're
but I
literally like
knew,
every CEO. Just know that is a very normal thing to be the chaos
yeah,
maker. The visionary comes up with this great idea, but they're also the chaos maker. So you're
exactly.
in good
Yeah.
company.
But in my defense, I had no idea that I was the chaos maker.
And most don't.
Right?
At least you have emotional intelligence to know that you're part of the problem.
Yeah. So with EOS, I came up with many, I think 32 of our QA principles. And with Culture by Design, Dave Friedman's program, he basically said, look, the leader needs to come up with the principles. You don't get any outside input from anybody because this is the culture that you are building as the leader of the organization. And once you figure that out, then you can bring in your team to distribute all of that stuff. And I'm not that kind of like push down, top down only leader. I'm definitely not like that at all. But I did take the time to do that. And I came up with 32. And I think our executive team came up with the other 8 and added on to it. But the way that we ended up deploying it was after, I sat down with the executive team, we talked through them all. We basically just said, okay, at first, the visionary, I'm going to do all 40 videos myself and we'll push them out once a week. And this was during the pandemic when we were pushing this stuff out. But I was pretty good at that for a little while. And then eventually Sean, who's the president, he's my integrator. He's like, Jack, you need to do this. I'm like, oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know it needs to be done. And Sean, fortunately, we complement each other very well. So he likes to be on the video and he likes to be the center of attention. And so he's like, I'll do it. I'm like, thank you. You go ahead and take over. And so he started doing a bunch, and I think he even finished them out. And then it was from there, Sean just made sure that everything got taken care of. It got integrated into our level 10 meetings. And I think it was he and his team that had the idea of, well, now let's do the same videos, but let's have our leadership team do them instead of the executive level team. And then so we had that started. And then the QA principles guide us in how we interact with people. And we talk about initially how the company, how it benefits the company. But then now what Sean has done, he said, now I want you, as you do these videos, talk about specific examples of how you've applied the QA principles in your business, but it's in your daily activities. And so it's just, it's a continuously evolving thing, and it sparks all the conversations that you want to spark within your organization. And it really, I think it's highly impactful. Yeah.
As you were talking and explaining this process of how you kind of integrate it all through your staff, it kind of reminds me of like a marriage. I mean, good marriages, you have to work on them. They're not just, hang them up and call it good. Like, you have to do these deep dives, and it's almost like you're kind of creating, they say the word relationship is to relate to others, right? You're relating to your staff as opposed to dictating to your staff or telling your staff. And that creates a marriage, which is in essence, probably part of.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So I keep seeing your mantra. I did some research on you, and I keep seeing your mantra on things as elevate others, quote unquote. So like, what does that mean to you?
That kind of goes back to your original question of, why are we here? Why do we exist? It's to elevate others. It is to, do what you can to improve the lives of the people that you interact with. And while we think of it in terms of, within OnQ, it also stretches out into the community, to our clients, to even our competitors. So if we see competitors that are in need and we feel like we could help them, we actually do that. We've had competitors come to us and say, hey, I've lost a big account. Can you send us some business so that I don't have to terminate my people? We've done that. Absolutely. We'll help you, because we definitely come from a mindset of abundance at OnQ. There's plenty of work, and we don't want anybody to lose their job, whether they're working for a competitor or whether they're working for us, and if we can help, that's what we do. So it's all about, trying to make a difference and do the right thing.
Yeah, 100%. We feel the same way. So I got a two-part question here. What are the top things impacting your company or your industry right now? And then I would follow that up with, the question everybody's talking about is, how is AI impacting your business?
Okay, so that's the answer. One of your answers in terms of the things that are impacting our business. And I don't think there's a lot of people who know exactly how it's going to end up and how, what impact it's going to have. Although with call center, it is front and center. I had read so many different articles about customer service is going to be the first area that gets impacted by AI. And the challenge that we've had, or that I've had anyway, is finding the technology solutions that are truly AI out there that are going to be disruptive in our industry. Mm-hmm. So if you go and do a Google search on, AI call centers, you'll get a whole, 2-3 pages of Google about basically phone tree. It's not AI. It's not anything like that. And so finding out those real agents that are, they sound, you call in to a contact center and somebody answers the phone and you're not sure, is that really a person or is that AI? That's the one that's most disruptive. And that is happening right now. That's what we're deploying within our organization. And it presents challenges for companies like mine. What are we about? We're about our employees. We're about the people. So the mindset is absolutely 180 degrees from the mindset that a lot of companies have. these agents so I can get rid of my people. No, I'm going
Right.
to use these agents so my people can service more people and make a bigger difference in the world.
Right.
And so there's a transition period where we have to work with our agents to teach them how to build the AI agents, how to manage the AI agents, and become, yes, you're going to be answering phones sometimes when the AI agent can't, but really what you're doing is you're monitoring the AI agents that we have. You're advising by either through coding directly or through our programming department. This is how we can make it more effective and better for the end user.
Yeah.
I think that's the route that we're going to see things happening. It's exciting and terrifying at the same
Yeah,
time.
right. I mean, it's keeping us all on our toes. We're all just like, hold my beer, let's
Yeah,
see what happens. So, and I think the next, 5 or 10 years is going to look very, very different everywhere. I mean,
for
it's just
sure.
going to be a different, like, do you remember that show, The Jetsons?
Of course, I
It's
love the
like, it's
Jetsons.
kind of like, I feel like we're headed to the Jetsons. The Jetsons was way ahead of its
I
time.
can't wait to the flying cars,
I
man.
know.
That's gonna be great.
Same, same. This is my biggest pet peeve in the world is traffic. So,
Uh-huh.
so what has been the most difficult part of your CEO journey and how have you handled it?
Well, let's see. I think the most difficult part is when you're starting out and the stress that it puts on your close relationships.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, my wife is very supportive. She always believed in me and has always supported me, and probably more so than I believed in myself. And so having that kind of support behind you is critical. I started my company when my kids were young,
Yeah.
and so I had to. I say I had to. I chose to do something that was going to be extremely time consuming during a time period when it was really critical for my kids. And so, are there regrets in that? A little bit, but I will say it also afforded me a lot of time with my kids shortly after we got the company up and running. Probably a little too much time, I would say. But
They
and
would
during
not say that. They would say we wanted more time with that.
more. Oh yes, Dad, you're always working. I said, we have a guest house where I work, and my kids would be at the main house during summertime. And they see me all day long. So it's all perspective, right? But I would say, the most challenging thing is managing that and making sure that you are taking care of yourself. And one of the things that I really didn't learn that I wish I had known earlier in my career was that, in order to help other people, you've got to take care of yourself first. And what I mean by that is body, mind, and spirit every day. You need to be doing something for all three of those categories before you can really be at your peak for other people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, seeing that you're kind of on the other side of it, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs or leaders or new business owners who are just starting that journey?
I would say, so I'm going to kind of bring these into, there's so many things that I would want to say to that question. But first off, one of the things that has made my business ventures successful has been having having somebody who's willing to buy the service or product before you even start.
Yeah.
That is tremendously helpful. And those people who are willing to do that, those are your champions. We would never, ever have gotten where we are without the people that have gotten us there. So, Houston Radiology Associates is a large radiology group out of Houston Methodist. They're my first client. They had confidence in us, the faith in us, and gave us our first assignment. And without them, I mean, OnQ probably wouldn't even exist. And then quickly, we reached out to a guy named Randy Stenwin. He's a radiologist here in Houston who'd been going to Panama forever, for 15 years at the time. And he introduced me to a guy named Don Rios, who's a local hero in Panama, who opened up, so many doors for us. And I, as I look back, it's that foundation, those critical people that are involved that can help you get going. If you can have that, I mean, your foundation is already starting off really well. So
Right.
I would say try to get that. And if you feel like you have something that the market wants, go talk to as many people as you can and get their input, because what you think they want is not what they want.
Yeah.
I learned that the company
I
that we
learned
are
that.
today is not anything like the company that I envisioned it being. It morphs, and I think that's another thing. Treat the company like an organism. It's got to be changing and adapting all the time. There's a book by the Koch brothers. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I think they call it market-based management is the book, and that's
Mhm.
the program inside Koch Industries, and it's where I got that whole idea of organizations. If you treat them more like an organism, where you go and gravitate towards where you can be the best, and the minute that you see somebody, or as soon as you start seeing another company that can make more money or be more profitable or be having a bigger impact to society, give that work to them. Whether you
Yeah.
subcontract to them, whether you sell it to them, let them have that, and then you do your own thing. And so I think, constantly changing, and if you're just starting out, there's going to be a lot of people who are naysayers, and you just got to have the mindset and know what you want and go after it.
Yeah.
Everything's possible.
Yeah.
Everything's possible.
Everything is possible. That's awesome. All right, we're going to wrap up with two final questions. So, where do you see yourself investing resources for growth over the next year?
Over the next 1 year, we're going to be investing in technology. So the AI agents will be spending a lot of money there. We're going to be investing in our sales and marketing infrastructure. One of the things that recently was brought to my attention is that companies are typically started by two types of individuals. There are operator-based companies and there are sale-based companies. And the vast majority of us in my industry, we're operators. We're
Hmm.
really good at building a solid product, solid services, but we're terrible at growing it because we don't know anything about sales and marketing. And so
Right.
we're trying to make that shift now, and bring in more expertise on sales and marketing, and leverage some of the more sophisticated outside resources. So that's where I see a lot of our investment going. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good answer. And what is the best piece of advice that you've received as a leader?
Um, to constantly work on myself. Yeah.
Yeah. It
Continuous
really does
self-improvement
start from the top down. I mean, we talk about that and what we do at GCE all the time, but it really does start from the top down. And
for sure.
it is a beautiful thing that can happen, or it's a really toxic thing that can happen in your company. And you are at the center of it. I always say to CEOs, like, when they're having an issue with their people and their process and their systems, it's like there's one common denominator here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. One of the things that I also tell my team is that the company's going to grow really fast, and I really don't want it to outgrow you.
Right.
So work on yourself, and myself, I'm included in that. At some point, this company, it's quite possible that it outgrows me, and we'll have to find somebody else. And I will actually consider that a success
That would be
when
very
that
successful.
happens.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so if somebody listening wanted to take the next steps with you, somebody who might be interested in learning more about what you do, or maybe even just talking to you, what would they do? What should they do?
Oh man, I'm open and available. LinkedIn, my LinkedIn profile is easy to find. Jack McBride, jack.mcbride at onqoc.com is my email, and my mobile phone is 832-771-8766. I'm open and willing to talk. So
Oh, well, thank you. We really, really appreciate that. It was such a pleasure to have you on the show, and I look forward to bringing you back sometime soon. I
love
think
to.
there's a lot more that we could have dived into that we just didn't have time for today.
I'd love to do that. Thank you for taking the time. Appreciate it. And I hope people get value out of our conversation. I know
I
I
I
know
know they
that
will.
I listen to a lot of podcasts and watch a lot of them, and that has become a a staple in my self-improvement. So hopefully we can make a difference.
Thank you so much.